Happy Sound Art Monday, everyone. We're back today with more from Jean-Franc ois Primeau. We had so much great content in our last segment that we couldn't fit it all in. So we're giving you a bonus day for Sound Art Sunday. Hope you enjoy. Jean-Francois, have there been any artists over the decades, like sound artists, maybe some of the artists that Fiona touched on in her art history segments that have had an impact on your art practice or your life in general?
Mhm. Definitely. I think a few of them, obviously. While I was rewatching the videos, there were a few things that sprung to my mind. Um, the first one was Luigi Russolo's uh, practice, which he was building these boxes that would make sounds to mimic sounds of factories and life and whatnot. And if I'm not mistaken, in his manifesto that he wrote on noise, um, at some point he says, and I found that very funny, that basically he doesn't like taking walks in nature because he feels like he's taking a walk like in a cemetery. Because the sounds he hears compared to the sounds of the city, uh, there's nothing happening basically for him. So like birds doesn't talk to him, and he's like, "Well, there's not enough." But when I'm like in like a big street with loads of cars going by and machines and stuff, then he feels like, oh, this is like interesting.
That's
So I
interesting.
think it's interesting also because right now I think we often see a current that's the other way around, that people are trying to mimic nature in their art practice.
Mm-hmm.
100 years later, it's fun to see like the shift here.
Yeah.
Um, so there was that, and then uh, another thing that I talked about was when she talked about John Cage, who influenced like pretty much like all of art spheres in his practice,
Mm-hmm.
with all of his ideas about what is sound and what is art, basically. Um, I'm again, maybe my memory is failing me, but these like are things I read a long time ago. But I think there was an anecdote. It was him, I believe, with Pauline Oliveras, and they were walking in New York after some kind of a social event or party or something like that, and they did like a detour of like 2 hours walking detour. To go, because there was a place that there was like a ventilation shaft that was giving ending up on the street, and the noise from it was super interesting to one of these persons. So they were like, oh, I'll show you that super interesting noise shaft noise, wind shaft noise. Um, so they went and listened to it, and there's not that many people who would make a significant detour to go listen to a specific sound
Yeah.
like that. So I think it shows their dedication to the medium, basically.
Yeah. How did their approach to the sound medium influence your own art practice?
It's the way that you listen to things, and that's what these two people really brought
Mm-hmm.
to the field was, uh, you know, how do you listen to things? Do you listen to the things for what they bring in as their referential source, or are you listening into it like like deep listening, as Pauline Oliver said, of are we listening to the noise or to the sounds and trying to break them down and go inside of them and not listen to them for what they come from, but for what they are in themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that's really interesting because to me that's you know getting close to magical realism, in the sense that it's one sound source that, depending on how you listen to it, can be seen completely differently, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah, that is really interesting. And it has me thinking of what you've been doing with some of the recordings that you did while you were here in Port Hope before the lockdown.
Yeah,
And what was that, in the fall?
yeah,
September?
it was in early October, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you visited two of the. Do you want to talk about it? Can I
Sure.
mention it?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, sure. So basically, when I did a trip to Port Hope to try and record sounds of the city, basically, and the soundscape, mostly around the Ganaraska River, but also when I was doing research about the city, I did lots of historical research and reading to try and find interesting aspects of Port Hope's history that I could put in my piece. Um, and then I realized that there were 6 organs in the city, which is quite something for a town that it's not a super small town, but it's not like a gigantic town either. So for the population, 6 organs is quite something. Um, so I did manage to go and record 2 of those at St. John's and at United Church. And the organists there were really nice to let me come in and record the sounds. I even managed to record from inside the organ itself piece, which was really interesting because we never hear that. It's you only get to hear basically the notes themselves without any of the reverberation from the church. And the mechanism also from the notes shifting when the pipes are getting fed with wind or not. So that was super cool. You
Yeah.
don't get to to hear that every day. And I use these sounds. I really modified them to basically make the sound bed of the piece for this project.
Hmm. So people might not realize that it's the organs from the church, but you've really made like an abstract composition out of that.
It's I stretched them and manipulated them and everything, so it's maybe people who played with sound will recognize them, but otherwise I think it's just it sounds nice, and to me it's parts of Port Hope's heritage.
Thanks again to Jean-Francois Primeau. We're really looking forward to experiencing his Time River piece this fall in Port Hope. And remember, next Sunday we'll be announcing the winner of our app naming contest. So there's still time to get your submissions in. Comment below or send us a direct message or email to info@criticalmassart.com. Thanks again and happy Sound Art Monday.